Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing, the earth-friendly publisher with books for both adults and children in a wide variety of genres, available in paperback and hardcover, as ebooks and with some audiobooks as well. In the Spotlight is a wide-ranging weekly interview show with authors, entrepreneurs, professionals, and other experts. Your host is Cynthia McGregor. Opinions and views expressed by the guests or hosts on this show do not necessarily reflect the opinions and views of the creator, Crimson Cloak Radio, the network, the hosts, or sponsors. And now, here's Cynthia.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. My guests today are Sheryl Green and Lynn Reilly. We'll start with Sheryl. Hi, Sheryl.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the show, Cynthia.
You're welcome. Sheryl Green has always enjoyed writing. However, it wasn't until a divorce shook her world that she discovered the power of story. Having penned 3 novels, she now brings her penchant for storytelling to nonfiction and content writing, working with businesses and individuals who want to position themselves as experts in their field. She leverages the power of story through website content, book coaching, workshops, and keynote speaking. She is the author of Surviving to Thriving, How to Overcome Setbacks and Rock Your Life, Once Upon a Bottom Line, Harnessing the Power of Story for Sales, Book Writing for Busy People, and the forthcoming Grow Your Business by Giving. She's also a firm believer that everything looks better covered in pet fur. In her spare time, she serves as the Director of Communications and Cuddling for Hearts Alive Village Animal Rescue. Sheryl is the co-founder and president of the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce, ushering in a new age of business where purpose is the new bottom line. Her forthcoming book, Grow Your Business by Giving, focuses on how small businesses can utilize cause marketing in the same way that large corporations do. Sheryl, tell us a little bit about your involvement with pets.
So I have been volunteering with animals for about 11 years now. I actually, when I first moved out to Vegas, I was going through a divorce and a pretty severe depression. And at my lowest point, my stepmom pulled me off the floor and told me to go help someone else. And I got involved in animal rescue. I've done adoption events and all different kinds of things during events. And then I realized that I love doing communications and that I love spreading the message of what we do. So I've been working with Hearts Alive Village for about 5 years now. And I do all of our media things, and I help put on Family Fur and Fun, which is our largest event of the year and sees about anywhere between 4,000 and 7,000 people, and just kind of raises awareness for animal rescue and for responsible pet ownership, and then raises some money for local rescues.
And what about your own pets, Sheryl? How many and what are their names and what breeds and are they canine, feline, what?
So I only have one. My parents are my primary pet sitting service. And they made it very clear that I could only have one animal. So I have a Beagle Lab mix. She has been with me since New York. I actually adopted her back in 2006. Her name is Akasha. And because I used to be goth and felt the need to name her after Anne Rice's Queen of the Vampires. And she is adorable. She's about 30 pounds and looks like a beagle if you put her next to a beagle, and she looks like a lab when you put her next to a lab. So.
And she's a Beagle Lab mix.
Yeah, and I'm always covered in her fur, not to mention everybody else's that I've pet that day. So it's just it's a no-win battle that I just stopped fighting.
I had a dream. I live in a no pets condo, so I can't even have so much as a goldfish. But I had a dream the other night that I had some kind of a pet. I think it was a dog rather than a cat, but I'm not sure. And the house was covered in pet fur, and I had bought one of those rollers that picks up lint, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess they still manufacture them. I bought them when I had pets a long time ago before I moved into this condo, and I dreamed that I had got a hold of one of those, bought it or borrowed it or I don't know what, and I was picking up dog fur all over the place.
Yep. It's an inevitable, a necessary evil, I guess. But you could always go to a rescue or a shelter and just cuddle if you need to get that animal fix. They need it, and it would help you too.
Well, now tell us about cause marketing. First of all, what is it?
Okay, so cause marketing is something that I actually came across a couple of years ago. Anybody that's ever volunteered or worked with a nonprofit knows that it gets really old begging for donations. And I don't know where I came across this term, but I'm pretty sure when I did, a light was shining on it and there was a choir of angels singing behind it. But cause marketing is something that corporations have known for years. It actually started out with Famous Amos, the cookies. But the first campaign is kind of attributed to American Express. I think it was back in the 70s, I want to say. 70s or 80s, and they said that for every time that the credit card was used or a new account was opened, that they would donate money to restore the Statue of Liberty. And it's evolved from there, but cause marketing, my words, I like to say it's selling warm fuzzies instead of widgets. It's basically when a business stands up for some cause and for some charity or nonprofit, and they support them. And it becomes a part of who they are, and it becomes a part of their marketing. Tom's is a really good example of this. Have you ever heard of the shoe company Tom's?
No.
Okay, they have a buy one give one model. Basically, when you buy a pair of shoes, they donate a pair of shoes to a child in need.
Uh-huh.
It's a great company, and many, many others have followed suit. And for those companies, look, shoes are not terribly exciting, at least not to me. I know there's a lot of women out there that would say otherwise. But when you're dealing with something like, for the small business, a real estate agent or a life insurance agent, that there's so many people that do the same thing. There's so much competition out there, and it's not the most exciting product that you're selling. When you deal with something like that, you can actually differentiate yourself from the competition because now you're standing for something. Whether it's, shoes to kids in need or helping out animals or the homeless or whatever your cause happens to be.
What are the benefits for businesses and nonprofits?
So for businesses, rather, one of the benefits, like I said, is differentiating yourself from the competition. If you think about it, if you've got two products, let's say you're looking at candy bars, chocolate bars, and they're priced about the same, and you know that they taste about the same, but one of them donates a portion of the proceeds to help the rainforest, but the other one doesn't donate the proceeds to anything. They just pocket it. Which one would you choose to go with?
I would certainly go with the one that's donating to the rainforest. Yes. Exactly.
So the benefit that business gets, it's called the halo effect. They are doing something good for the community or for the world, however, they choose to set that up. So really differentiating yourself, but also it's huge to attract other people that are like-minded. A lot of us went into our own business, that entrepreneurial mindset, and part of the benefit of that is that you get to work with people that you like and that have the same kind of morals as you and the same desires as you. And when you stand for something, you attract those other people that feel the same way. For example, I talk about animals a lot. Obviously, it's a big part of my life. Everything I do, my books that I sell, my speaking engagements, it all goes, a portion of that goes to the animal rescue. So there is a possibility that some people don't like animals and that they are not going to want to work with me. And that's okay, because I don't really want to work with people that don't like animals. So, Seth Godin talks about attracting your tribe, and that's really what it is. Who are those people that you want to do business with, those like-minded people that are really working towards the same goal.
Well, now, how does a business get involved with a nonprofit?
There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. The first advice that I give my clients is always figure out what means something to you. What is that cause out there? Whether, like I said, whether it's animals or veterans or the homeless or, literacy, find something that either really means something to you or makes perfect sense for your business. So, that would be maybe a real estate agent that is involved in,
homelessness.
I forgot it. Yeah, exactly. Homeless. So choose something that either means the world to you or makes sense for your business. And then ask around, find out, throw it up on social media, ask your current clients if there is any nonprofits that support this cause that you could partner with and that, have a good name in the community. And then you just reach out to them and you see what they need. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of businesses and a lot of individuals don't necessarily understand is that nonprofits don't need everything. So you want to collaborate with somebody and ask them, how can I help you? And if you can, great. And maybe you can't, and that's not the right fit for you. But find out, is it money? Is it volunteerism? Is it some sort of pro bono work? Like maybe they need an accountant or a web designer, whatever it may be. And then get your clients, your customers involved. Right. So let them know. I talk a lot in my other book about storytelling, and your client really needs to be your hero. They need to be the one that's actually like triggering this donation or this help that you're giving. That's the traditional cause marketing type. So if they buy something, then you donate. If they do this, then that happens. And a really great example of this, like a good friend of mine, he's in the chamber now and he's helping us develop it. He is a mortgage lender and huge supporter of a program called Happy Feet, where they put shoes and kids on socks in low-income Title I schools here in Las Vegas. And for every loan he closes, he donates 5 pairs of shoes. So it actually, it helps his clients become the hero, because it's like, you know what, you just closed a loan with me, so I can help more. And yeah, just find where you're needed and what you can give, and then come up with a plan that works for both the business and the nonprofit.
What if the nonprofit you choose already has a corporate sponsor? Can they have two? Can you go ahead and be the sponsor for some corporate, business do good nonprofit that has a corporate sponsor already?
Absolutely. I think you can always help more. However, I'm actually a huge fan of for my book is really written towards small businesses, and I'm a huge fan of small businesses working with small nonprofits. The larger nonprofits, the larger charities out there, they usually do have those big corporate sponsors. The small ones, the little like grassroots, 5 to 10 people are running it, and possibly nobody is even paid yet. Those nonprofits are making a huge difference in the individual communities that people do business in. And there's actually scientific research behind it that people want to see they want to see companies help within the communities that they're in. So I just advise people, you know what, find a small nonprofit to work with. It's not bad if they already have corporate funding, but it's those little guys that are like on the street that can really make a difference, and often they're overlooked for corporate funding.
How can a business get involved with a large corporation if they're a small nonprofit, a small business? Like, for example, I think Make-A-Wish Foundation is a wonderful company and a wonderful cause, I should say. And suppose I had a small business and wanted to get involved with something large like Make-A-Wish. How would I do that?
Probably reaching out to their marketing department. If they have one, you're going to need to establish some sort of relationship with them. You can, yeah, you know what? It just depends on what that nonprofit needs. What your business provides and how you can help them. It's kind of not a one size fits all. I'm not sure how to answer that question better.
Well, I was thinking in terms of a campaign like for every dollar you spend, we'll give 10 cents to Make-A-Wish or to Cancer Society or some other large corporation.
Yeah, you can do it. You just if you want to get any marketing value out of it, if you just want to make a donation, by all means, you can absolutely say like, hey, I'm going to donate a percentage to whatever organization you care about. But if you actually want to get that like marketing value out of it, you need to establish that relationship with the organization, with the nonprofit, and get approval to use their name. Because again, you're getting that business is getting that halo effect. So you want to make sure that you've contacted the nonprofit and that they are on board with working with you.
Now,
because sometimes it's not a good fit for them either.
Who do you contact at the nonprofit? Say I'm a small business. Say I'm a local, rather than a national, a local business of some sort that wants to partner with, let's say, a local cause rather than a national one. And I want to reach out to them. Who do I reach out to at the cause? What department or what individual do I look for?
I would check with the marketing or maybe community involvement. A lot of times when you're dealing with a small organization, everybody's wearing multiple hats.
What about a mid-sized cause? Who would I contact there if it's not a humongous well-known cause like the Cancer Society, but it's not just a small pet rescue in the area? If it's a mid-sized cause, who would I look for there?
Probably marketing. I would start there. If you start with, like fundraising department, they're going to think that you just want to make a donation and not that you necessarily want to work together. So I would start with marketing.
Well, now tell me, what drew you to cause marketing?
It was really just years of asking for donations for the animal rescue, but also realizing that there are so many challenges in our world and in our individual communities, that no matter what political party you subscribe to, the government just isn't fixing these problems. And big corporations have been involved with this for many years, I like to call it giving forward into the community. But also, I think small businesses can make a huge difference. And I started my business about 3 years ago, and I realized just how much power small businesses have to affect change in our community. So I love that cause marketing is out there, and I love that people are starting to realize that it's okay if you benefit from the good work that you do in the community. It doesn't take away from it.
Well, now, what are things that you can offer as a small business that will promote a worthy cause? I mean, besides offering arbitrarily, let's say, 10 cents on every dollar spent, or the example you gave earlier of donating one pair of shoes to a needy child for every pair of shoes that are bought. What are some other ways of giving back or paying forward?
So traditional cause marketing is like that purchase. What's the word I'm looking for? Purchase driven donation. So that would be your buy one give one, your 10 cents on the dollar, that kind of thing. But there are plenty of other ways that you can help. Raising awareness is a huge thing. Even when money doesn't come into play, nonprofits can benefit, your cause can benefit from the audience that you already have. So sharing information about the cause and about the problems that they're working to fix. Offering services. Attorneys have done this for years. They do pro bono work. But you can, if you are a graphic designer, you can help create marketing materials for a nonprofit. Like I'm a writer, so I've done, website content and things like that for nonprofits. A photographer, a videographer, an accountant, any of those, like any service-based industry, chances are, like, if a business could use that person and that service, a nonprofit can as well. So it's just that kind of supportive position. I know people that offer coaching services to executives in nonprofits to help them be better leaders and things like that.
How does that help them grow their business?
It helps them grow their business because the nonprofit is going to talk about the help that they've given them. And because now the business is going to put on their website, hey, just so you know, I am involved in this. Like, I have a philanthropy tab on my website to let people know what I'm involved in. They're going to talk about it, and the nonprofit's going to talk about it. They're going to mention this experience they had. They can put on their social media, hey, you know what, thank you to this person for helping. Why don't you head to their website and check out how they've, helped our mission, something like that.
Sheryl, what are your upcoming projects?
So right now, I'm actually working on combining my love of animal rescue with the lessons that I think everybody needs for business and really for life. So I'm going to be taking those lessons, those experiences that I've had in 11 years of animal rescue, and tailoring them so that they can help business owners and they can help individuals just to enjoy their life more. I think we can learn so much from animals and so much from volunteering and being involved in something bigger than ourselves. And I want to share that with people.
Great. Sheryl, tell us a little about your other books.
Sure. So my first book is Surviving to Thriving, How to Overcome Setbacks and Rock Your Life. This one is really kind of a culmination of the divorce, the depression, just years of getting knocked on my butt and getting up stronger. My degree is in psychology, and I wanted to help people become more resilient because bad things happen all the time. And, life is this constant ups and downs. And I wanted to help people have those tools that they need to kind of get to the next stage and get through that mess. So that was my first one. My second one is Once Upon a Bottom Line, Harnessing the Power of Storytelling in Sales. And that was just this realization that I have all of this knowledge of writing and crafting stories. And business owners and salespeople and nonprofits could use this. I learned pretty early on in the fundraising game that it's the same as sales, except you don't have an actual product to give them. And you have to create that emotional connection. You have to evoke emotion in the person that you're selling to or trying to fundraise with in order to reach your goals. So I wanted to help business owners and salespeople learn really how to put together a good story so that, one, they can craft it properly, and two, it'll really hit that emotional nerve and be able to influence their audience.
And Sheryl, your website is www.Sheryl, that's with an S, Sheryl, Green, Green, Speaks, Speaks.com. www.SherylGreenspeaks.com, right?
Yep. And you can find all the information on my books, on the nonprofit, and I believe there's a link now to the Cause Marketing Chamber if you want to learn more about cause marketing.
Great. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. Sheryl, you have about 1 minute if there's something brief you'd like to add.
You know what? I always use this time to say, please spay and neuter your pets, and consider spending some time just loving on an animal. It will make them more adoptable, and you will get a world of benefit from it. So take care of your animals.
Okay, take care of your animals. That's a wonderful message. Thank you very much, Sheryl Green. I look forward to having you back on the show when you have another book or cause to promote.
Thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And again, I have to remind our listeners that this is In the Spotlight, and it's brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing, publishers of books for adults and kids both, fiction and nonfiction both, and everything except erotic romances. And we don't have any cookbooks yet, but we will. And so everybody go to www.crimsoncloakpublishing.com. And this week we are featuring Facing Down Empty Nest Syndrome. For the last 2 or 3 weeks, we were featuring Mama's Map, a book for kids. And this week we are promoting Facing Down Empty Nest Syndrome, which is a book for moms whose kids are flying the coop and who maybe don't have any kids or just have fewer kids at home and are feeling the typical empty nest syndrome, sadness and depression, and oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? The answers are in this book, Facing Down Empty Nest Syndrome, and you can buy it on our website at www.crimsoncloakpublishing.com. And now it's time to bring on my next guest, who is Lynn Reilly. So let me get a hold of her and get her on. Okay? Lynn. Lynn?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Folks, Lynn Reilly always knew supporting people is what she meant to do. As the child of a mentally ill mother, she watched dysfunctional thoughts and patterns take over her mother's life and eventually end it. At a very young age, Lynn practiced listening to her mother's woes and helping her make sense of them. Hold on. Okay. This became her foundational learning of psychology and study of behavior, as well as a motivator to support people with understanding their emotions. When she learned you can talk to people to support them in helping themselves, she thought for sure the job was designed just for her. Years of education and practice as a professional counselor and observer helped her become an expert in understanding the whys and hows of human behavior. Lynn's skill is to read and understand behavior and thought patterns. However, her gift is to see the beauty and unexpected gifts that rise from our experiences, to recognize the serendipity of life. And Lynn, how does being a counselor help your writing?
Well, it gives me a lot of information to work with. As an observer of people and working with people for as long as I have, it gives me a lot of insight and understanding into human behavior and how we all process and think and live our lives because of it.
And Lynn, what are the obstacles for those who are doing the 30-day process?
I would say the biggest obstacle that people run into is time, feeling like there isn't enough time. So it's that sort of gung-ho process of, okay, I'm ready for this, I'm ready for a change, I'm excited, I'm going to invest in myself. And then it's kind of like that diet that sounds fantastic. Like, all right, I'm giving up sugar and I'm giving up like nasty carbs and the stuff that doesn't work for me, but I'm keeping the good stuff. And on day 3, you're like, a bowl of ice cream seems really delightful right now. And maybe if I'll just sneak in a little of this and maybe tomorrow I'll just go back to pasta, but I'll keep some other stuff out. It's sort of the same thing. So it's like once you start to invest in that time in yourself, things creep in of like, oh, well, my kids need me to do this for them for an entire day, and there is no focus on me. And I've got to have this work deadline, so I have no other time to invest besides doing what my boss is asking. So it's sort of those normal excuses that people come up with. That's the stuff that gets in our way. The things that get in our way to begin with are the stuff that continues to block us from connecting with ourselves.
What is the 30-day process?
The 30-day process really is just an investment into yourself, your energy. When we are disconnected from ourselves, and that means disconnected from ourselves, I see that as when we're putting all of our energy out into other people or situations or anything that really doesn't invest in ourselves and our own personal joy or well-being, that's a lot of energy out. So it's sort of how are we giving love out but not getting enough in return? How are we receiving? And when we're giving out more than we're getting, and vice versa, we become disconnected from our flow, from our wholeness, from what feels best for us. And when that happens, we'll start to get symptoms of crankiness or frustration, especially if we're giving out a lot to others and not feeling like we're getting a lot in return.
And that those are the symptoms of disconnection. And what the 30 days to me is a reconnection to self. It is a guide to can I reconnect with myself? And the process is spending time to look at yourself on a daily basis, to do for yourself on a daily basis, doing what brings you joy. The whole book starts off with creating a list of things that you like to do, that you enjoy. And a lot of times when we're disconnected from ourselves, we forget what those things might be.
As a single mom, how did you dedicate the time to this?
Well, it was really about recognizing that my disconnection from myself and my symptoms were I was just generally crabby and frustrated, and I just felt off. And that wasn't helping me be the mom that I wanted to be for my kids, the one that wanted to invest her time and her focus and energy into them. Because my energy was all over the place and not going into me, I wasn't able to be there for them in the way I wanted. And so when I recognized that prioritizing myself had to come first so I could fill myself back up to give to them, it became much easier. And I also didn't do it in a way that it impacted them negatively. I would choose things that I could integrate into my life instead of replacing any time that I might be giving to them.
Who would benefit most from this book?
I would think anyone would benefit from this book that was feeling off or disconnected or feeling like they needed a boost and confidence and general satisfaction in their life. A lot of times, certainly not for little kids because they're not quite there yet, but even for adolescent kids begin to start to focus outside of themselves more and take on that external pressure. But definitely adults who are in well practice and giving out and feeling like they can't give back to themselves or don't know how, this is a perfect fit for them.
What is the best job you've ever had?
The best job I've ever had?
Yeah.
That's a great question. The best job I've ever had it kind of sounds sort of cliche, but being a mom. And the reason why that's been the best job for me is because it's been, number one, the most challenging, and I like a challenge. But it's been the most rewarding in seeing that the effort that I put into myself, I then transfer that to my kids. I then teach my children how to use those same things that I've learned are really beneficial for them. And what I've seen in that is these kids, I have 2 teenagers now, that are really just cool people to be around. I enjoy their company. I enjoy who they are. I enjoy what they bring to the table, which makes it very easy for me to want to give to them because they give so much back to me in the way that they love and the way that they respect. And watching them grow is really, really cool.
What inspires you to write?
I have a deep, deep, deep passion to support the world and raising its elevation of love. And that sounds so basic, but it's just so true. When we are feeling hateful or we're feeling judgmental, it feels gross. It feels disgusting. It feels disconnecting. But the more that we focus back to what we like and what we enjoy about people and ourselves, the more that we physically, emotionally, and mentally feel better. So what makes that me feel good is when I see other people elevate that in themselves, when they reconnect with their joy and they reconnect with their passion and they are living a life that feels good to them. That's extremely inspiring to me.
How can we buy your books?
My book is available on Amazon as well as many, many other booksellers around the world where you can get your books. But Amazon generally seems to be the easiest.
Do you have a website where we can go to read?
I do. www.livingwithserendipity.com.
livingwithserendipity.com.
Yes.
And we can go there to learn about your books and to order books from that site?
Yes, and there's also podcasts on there that are available, free podcasts that talk about a lot of the same principles and practices that are in my book, which are really great reminders on some of our top stressors in life, as well as a lot of articles that I've written that have been published around as well.
Do you write more for yourself or for others?
I find that whatever I do for me ends up benefiting others. So the primary learning is always for me, and then I always share what I learn because I find it to be very valuable and helpful for other people.
What else have you written besides this book?
I've written a children's book as well, and that is called The Secret to Beating the Dragon, which is a beautiful story about a grandmother and her grandson, and a loving story of their connection together and creating stories together of beating the dragon, which is fear, and their lifelong connection that also continues even when she passes.
Are you working on any books now?
I'm always working on another book, and I'm always working on different projects. So right now I'm really focusing on more articles, but I've got a couple book ideas in my back pocket that I'm looking forward to investing in.
Did you always know you wanted to be a writer?
I always knew I loved to write, but I did not have the confidence in myself to do that. And because psychology was something that interested me more, I invested in that, and that's really where my career has been, primarily in that field of psychology. But I've always enjoyed writing, and I reconnected with writing probably about 10 years ago. I started writing a parenting blog when I was a school counselor. I loved to share my perspective on raising kids and working with children and families for as long as I had. I had a lot of experience that I wanted to share. And that reignited my love of writing, and then it took off from there.
How long did it take you to write this book?
Well, it took a total of 2 years to write the book and complete the book to publication. And the book was actually written earlier than that, but I had a sudden loss of a friend, which kind of shut me down for a while. So one of the things that helped me to write the book, to finish the book, was I actually used the processes in the book during my grieving process and used all of the things that I had been teaching. And that actually helped me to have the most positive, if there is such a thing, and it really did feel positive, grieving process that I've ever had. And I've experienced a lot of that in my life. But when I used the practices in the book during that time period, it really made a difference. And that actually gave me the extra push to finish the book.
Well, you talk about the grieving process. Have you written a book about the grieving process?
I have not written a book about grieving process, but a lot of the grieving process is very easy during grief to become disconnected from ourselves, to let ourselves go. And a lot, we stop to focus in ourselves through our grief. So many of the practices in this, I was grieving when I actually did this 30-day practice. So a lot of that came from during my own grieving practice. So I have found it I have found it to be very helpful when I'm going through different variations of grief.
Have you thought about writing a book about the grieving process?
In fact, I have thought about writing a book about the grieving process. I think it tends to integrate itself into my work as is, but I haven't written anything specific. Although my children's book touches upon death because the grandmother in the book does die in the book and talks about how they stay connected through his grieving process and the serendipitous occurrences that came with it. So I do not shy away from grief ever, but I haven't written anything very specific that says this is for grieving.
What type of people inspires you?
People who are ready to embrace life and live it, meaning who are ready to look at their fears in the face and say, this is really scary, I'm still going to do it. Those are the type of people that inspire me, and that's the type of person that I aim to be.
What was the hardest thing about writing the book for you?
Time management. Same, going back to that focus on time. I have, because I am a divorced mom and raising teenagers and take that job very, very seriously. And I do have a private practice that I run, along with the responsibilities of having my clients. And I do own a home and all of that, and try to have a life outside of that to put focus in something that I'm equally passionate about was important to me, but it was also the biggest challenge.
How did writing this book change you?
It reminded me of what I believe to be important, and that helped me to practice it even more, and it become my go-to practices when I'm feeling off and I'm feeling disconnected. That helped me to reconnect with myself and be more in flow.
What is a working book?
This book, we call it a working book because you do have to invest in yourself and in doing the work in order to get something out of it. So if you want to read through it, it's a great and interesting read in terms of the concepts, but without doing it, the effects are less lasting. They just become concepts. So for me, the work that I do is very much a two-part process, which is having awareness, which is what the book offers, and then needing to follow through with action. So you can have great awareness, but without action to do anything different, then the results are the same. So this book offers the awareness, but it also offers a structure for an action plan in order for lasting change.
What do you want people to learn, pardon me, from reading this book?
I would like them to know that there's always a way, there are always options, and there are always things that they may have not tried to help them to come back to themselves. It's very, very easy to forget about ourselves in life because we are so distracted by so much of the outside noise and the outside responsibilities. My hope is that this book, when engaging with it, will help to create more balance, and that in a sense tends to be where people have the biggest struggle, is balancing themselves in their own lives.
What is the book actually about? What does it teach?
It is a guide, a literal guide on how to reconnect with yourself. Sort of that concept of, go within, and which sounds great, but like, what does that mean? And so this book really is a guide to go within and learn more about yourself, create awareness, but also create a plan to do something different and change the areas of your life that are asking for change.
What is the actual title again? Do you want to tell us?
30 Days to Me.
30 Days to Me. Okay. 30 Days to Me. And what's the best part of being able to live serendipitously?
Living serendipitously is really living in the flow of life. So the serendipity piece of trusting that life is working in your favor, that there are always things that are happening for us, that no matter what our experiences that are occurring in our lives, they are teaching us something of value. And when we slow down and become aware of what those are, we're able to see that we can trust the flow of life, the process of life, more than distrust it. Because when we're living in distrust, we're living in fear. And the more that we're able to practice trust and faith, the more that we stay connected to ourselves and we're living in the flow and we're just a happier being.
It sounds to me like you are either a religious or a spiritual or both person. May I ask you to tell us a little about your religious and or spiritual beliefs? Would you share those with us?
Yes. My spiritual beliefs, I would consider myself, if I was going to put myself in a category, it would be that of a person who has strong spiritual beliefs. And my beliefs really are that there is an energy that I believe in, that governs us. And that energy helps us, supports us in living a life that is really designed to connect us back to love, connect us back to our joy, connect us back to the things that make us feel whole and happy. And our job is to become aware of that energy and the way that it supports us. So it's very much how I see my role is to be able to show, to teach that awareness, to help us to slow down and see things, why they're happening the way they are, and that they are really advantageous versus that life is happening in a way that's meant to hurt you or to harm you, or that it has to be hard and difficult and unhappy more often than not.
And you feel that, is this something that you have believed in all your life, or did you come to this belief at a later point? And if so, what brought you to this belief?
I would say that in my earlier life, as a child, I had always believed in something, and at that point, I called my belief was in God. I was raised Christian, and I went to a lot of different churches, and to be connected to the Christian faith. So foundationally, I've always believed in something, and I think that there was a time period in probably adolescence where I decided I don't really know what I believe in, because I didn't want to just believe what people told me. I wanted proof for myself, sort of a skeptic by nature. And that natural skepticism sort of put me on a search for what is real and what is not real, at least for me. What is truth and what is not truth? And that, I think after my mother had died unexpectedly, she had taken her life, it sort of set me back and put me in a place of, I don't really know what I believe in. I don't really know if there is something that is protecting us or supporting us. I wasn't sure. So it sort of set me on a search for more information and proof that there was something. And a series of life events for me, including deaths of people that I was close to, losing a job that I was really attached to, divorce, things that were really difficult for me, or the things that helped me to slow down and pause and look at my own belief system and say, what's really happening here? Is life just difficult and it's always going to be this way, or do I have actually more power in this? And as I slowed down and began to observe, and also started to learn, was connected with energy therapy, which was connecting to universal energy, or energy of source. I began to see things in a way that, to me, I guess I would describe it as magical, like, I never would have thought that could happen, or wow, I never saw that connection. And I guess it was just a slowing down and observation of how the things connected and shifting perspective that it became much more, I guess we'll say, enlightened, and seeing things for what to me were more of a truth. And the negative way of thinking that I had experienced for a very, very long time began to shift into seeing things more in a lighter way.
So this was a belief that you came to through seeing your life unfold.
Yes. It was through my own experiences and my own very dark times that I was searching for something that was lighter and hopeful, because I've always been a person who was, although I am a natural skeptic, I'm also always looking for the positive. That is the way that has always been my survival tactic, to look for the good and to look for the positive in things. And that, I don't know if that's a natural skill for me or if that was something I was born with, but it is something that I tend to be very good at.
So you're a glass half full person rather than a glass half empty, right?
I am a glass half full person. Yes, absolutely.
I think I'm a glass overflowing person.
I think that's wonderful. I think working with as many depressed and anxious people as I have over time has also helped me become a realist in terms of a glass half full. So although I would say, well, life is always working for you, that doesn't mean it's always going to feel that way. So I don't ever want to give the impression of, well, life isn't hard. Well, it is. Sometimes it's very difficult and it's very painful, but I do believe we are supported, especially during those times. And that's the part of the work that I like to point out.
I'm a cancer survivor. I have Tourette syndrome. I have a variety of other illnesses and situations that I'd rather not even go into a litany of, but I still think life is wonderful.
I think that's beautiful, and I love that. And I think that type of perspective, quite frankly, is what keeps us alive and thriving.
I agree. Have you got, in the last 5 minutes or so that we have to talk, besides reminding our listeners again of where they can buy your books, do you have any other final words that you'd like to share with our audience? And if not, will you read a passage from your book?
Absolutely. I'm going to give an example of one of the days of my book. There's 30 days, and it's really just 30 activities or 30 concepts. And one of my favorite days in the book is day 16, and it talks about the practice of worry, how worry is a habit, and how we're very well practiced in worrying, because that is what we are taught. We are taught how to live in fear and to live with fear and to how to live through fear. And the practice in the book is looking at the fact that although you worry about things, if you use your past as proof, you begin to see that there is nothing for you to worry about. Because essentially the things that you worried about yesterday or a year ago or 5 years ago did not come to be. And when you look back and you see all the time that we spent in worry, how could you have, if you had changed your perspective and worried a little bit less, maybe not abolished it completely, how would your life have looked different? But really, it's the idea of using the evidence of the life experiences, like you were just talking about being a cancer survivor. I can imagine that when you were diagnosed, a lot of different fears went through your head and a lot of different scenarios and the way that things were going to play out, because that would be a common reaction. But what ended up happening was being a survivor, going through the experience, I'm sure you learned a lot of amazing things about yourself and about life in that process. Sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. Believe it or not, as claustrophobic as I was at the time, I was more worried about being hospitalized and not being able to get out and go home than I was about the cancer.
Yeah. Well, so that's a great example. And so the fear of the claustrophobia taking over and feeling like you weren't able to get out of the hospital, but you did, and you survived it, and you moved through that fear. And maybe it felt as bad as you thought it did, but it showed you that you had a level of strength that maybe you didn't know you could access. So there's some value that came from it. But that also not just made you a cancer survivor, but a survivor of some of your deepest fears.
Yeah.
So when we use those experiences that we have of the things that we fear, how often do they come to be? How often do they come to fruition? 98% of the time they don't. And the 2% of time that they do, there's generally a gain that comes with that, a learning of some sort, a strength that accompanies it. So when we use our evidence of the life experience that we have, it allows us to move forward with less fear, with less worry, because we know that we have an evidence that we are going to be okay, that we can trust that the things that we worry about won't come to fruition. And if they do, there will be some gain that comes with it.
Lynn, how old, if I may ask this, and it's a sensitive question, I realize, but how old were you when your mother took her life?
It was 5 days before my 15th birthday.
And you survived that?
I sure did. I didn't just survive it, but I did make a decision early on at that point that I was going to take that experience and learn from it and grow from it. And that was a very conscientious decision of I'm going to take this experience and make it work for me. I'm going to grow from it, and I'm going to find a way to help other people. And that's exactly what I've done.
God bless. God bless. Well, Lynn Reilly, thank you very much for being here with us today on In the Spotlight. Please tell our listeners one last time what your website is where they can go to learn about your books.
My website, thank you very much, is Living with Serendipity. So it's www.livingwithserendipity.com. There's also a link where you can buy my books from the website. In addition to the books, that, as I mentioned previously, there are some podcasts on there that I think are also very helpful. I will go back and listen to myself for reminders because we always need a boost. And there are some articles on there that are inspiring stories as well.
Well, thank you very much. And listeners, I want to remind you that you're listening to In the Spotlight, a weekly show every Tuesday at this time that is also available in archives on the website, and you can find there back episodes if you want to hear them, or if you couldn't catch this one live, you can catch it later. I also want to remind you to pass a smile along. This is Cynthia MacGregor. I'll see you again next week.
You have been listening to In the Spotlight with your host, Cynthia MacGregor, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing. For a wide variety of books for both adults and children in print, ebook, and audio formats, join us every Tuesday at the same time as In the Spotlight brings you interesting guests to entertain and enlighten you. I'm Carly McCracken. On behalf of Crimson Cloak Publishing, thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next week.